Famed Japanese swordsman Yamaoka Tesshu once quoted, "The way of the sword depends on both the cut and the thrust," or something along those lines. And I probably butchered his name, but he makes a good point here. Edged weapon fighting relies on both cut and thrust. Edged weapons killing is usually very point driven. However, a modern warrior I respect, Terry Trahan, said something that I really thought made sense. The cut makes way to the thrust. The slash makes way to the thrust, or something along that line. This is how I've always been trained to fight in Filipino martial arts. Cut your way in. Don't close the distance to close range until you're ready to finish your opponent. When you close distance into that close range, it may be time to become very point driven and feed multiple stabs to your opponent if you can. However, that close range is often forced on us before we even want to get into there, because aggressive people move forward, aggressive people move into close range, into clinching range. And if we both don't respect the knife because of maybe mindset, rage, drugs, whatever, that close range may be forced upon us. And then we got to latch on to that knife arm, the knife wielding arm, and get those multiple stabs going. It is imperative we learn how to control that knife wielding arm if we're going to minimize the damage that our opponent is going to do. Because have no illusions, if you are in a knife fight, you will be taking wounds, you will be getting hurt, you will be going to the hospital or the morgue. If you win the knife fight, well, you don't really ever win these kinds of situations, because whatever happens, there's going to be consequences afterwards, and you will be wounded. You might be wounded grievously. So the best you can hope for is survival. My friend Bob Walker did a cool video on his channel about point-driven knife styles and how having an edged weapon allows you to counter grabs, counter traps and things like that. The idea of defanging the snake, well, it may not be that likely, but causing wounds right away is a great tactic. Causing wounds as soon as your opponent moves is psychologically intimidating. Not to mention, it's just a physical reality that wounds to muscles, nerves, and tendons impair a person's ability to move their body. And I will be honest, if you keep your knife sharp enough, winter clothing will not make that big of a difference. It will not be that good of armor against it. So you will be able to cut your way to the thrusting range. And this is what we train to do. Yes, we want to be point driven, but if we deal with another person armed with a knife, we better have a lot more skill than just shanking the shit out of them. We better have some skill at keeping distance, moving around, countercutting, weakening our opponent, and then moving in and doing the dirty job of finishing them. This is the way the Filipino knife fighters have done it for centuries, and it works.